We were told this speech would be America first, but would mention Greenland and Venezuela in the context of the Western Hemisphere. But once again, Donald Trump seemingly unable to stick to his prepared remarks, and it turned into a laundry list of grievances whenever he jumped off script. About an hour and 10 or so minutes that this speech went on. It really was more like a rally than an address. Trump started with an economic message, though, repeating his claims about inflation. Worth fact-checking those that indeed inflation is down from the Biden era, but only from around 3% to 2.7%. That is still higher than the 2% that most central banks aim for, including the US Federal Reserve. But Trump, again, couldn't help himself from grandstanding on the international stage there in Davos, instead not focusing on domestic issues and soon veering off into international issues. And it wasn't long until he lambasted the US allies. Canada, for example, he spoke out against Mark Carney's speech yesterday at Davos, where Carney said that there had been a rupture between allies in the last year or so. Trump said that Canada lives because of the United States and said, remember that, Mark, next time you make your statements. He also moved on to the energy sector, lambasting the output of allies. He continued his crusade against windmills, which he has mentioned for the best part of a decade now, taking aim at Europe for its use of wind energy. He also mentioned China, saying that he's never seen a wind farm in China, despite China selling a lot of wind turbines to the rest of the world. Another quick fact check there. China is actually home to the world's largest wind farm, and the country accounts for over half of global offshore turbines as well. Trump then making fun of French President Emmanuel Macron, who of course has been wearing sunglasses at Davos because of an eye issue. He said that recent tariff threats against France are based on high prescription drug prices that Macron seemingly will not budge on. But most of the speech was focused on Greenland, which he repeatedly mistakenly called Iceland, worth noting as well. There was silence in the room as people listened to what the president had to say. Arguably the biggest news that came out of that over 1 hour, 10 minutes is that Trump said he won't use force to take Greenland. He said, people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. And then said, I won't use force. He also, though, was downplaying the territory as a piece of ice and once again repeated his false claim that the US would be there for NATO, but he wasn't sure whether NATO would return the favor. Another fact check there, the only time that the Mutual Defense Agreement of NATO, Article 5, has been invoked was after the attacks of 9/11, when the NATO allies came to the aid of the United States. But Donald Trump invoking the past again, invoking World War II, saying Denmark fell to the Nazis within 6 hours and that it fell to the US to protect Greenland, and said if it wasn't because of the US right now, you'd all be speaking German. Again, worth noting that he's saying this in Davos, Switzerland, which is indeed in the German-speaking part of Switzerland. And he said that the US was stupid to give back Greenland to Denmark after the US shored it up during World War II. But of course, the US never really controlled Denmark. It was merely protecting it from the Nazi threat. So a significant development there on Greenland. Finally, we'll just mention Ukraine. Trump said that he would meet Zelensky. Also worth noting that Zelensky is reportedly not at Davos and decided yesterday not to travel to the conference. And the last kind of bit that he focused on was his Achilles heel at home, really, affordability. Trump focusing on what he's doing to lower housing costs for Americans. We were told that would be the main focus of his speech, but of course, after he mentioned that briefly, he then moved back onto tariffs and international affairs. So I'll leave you with this in terms of a wrap-up. I got a text from one former Biden official during this speech simply saying, this speech is effed.